What happens when a multi-million-dollar spectacle, designed to celebrate the ego of one man, collides with the unfiltered truth of one woman? What happens when a birthday party with tanks gets called out on live television, and suddenly the whole country starts listening? This is the story of a parade that was supposed to be about power, and a congresswoman who reminded everyone what real strength sounds like. So, picture this. It's June 14th, 2025. Washington, D.C. is boiling under a heavy summer sun. It's Flag Day, the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary, and, most importantly to one person, it's Donald Trump's 79th birthday, and he has planned himself a party. Constitution Avenue is lined with tens of thousands of people, but the mood is strange. Tanks are rumbling down the asphalt, shaking the windows of historic buildings. The air is thick with the smell of diesel and a kind of tense, confused silence. High school marching bands try to fill the dead air, but their music just gets swallowed by the noise of helicopter blades chopping overhead. This isn't a celebration. It feels more like an occupation. Veterans groups were split. Some supported it, but many more were asking a simple question. Why? Why spend over $45 million on this, when homeless veterans are sleeping under bridges just miles away? Protesters held signs that read, "Honor vets, not egos." One group, dressed in fatigues, sat silently on the ground, holding signs listing veteran suicide statistics. But at the heart of it all, shielded from the sun, riding in a custom-built golden red golf cart, was Donald Trump. He waved, he grinned, he saluted the cameras. It was a salute to the troops marching in the blistering heat. It was a salute to himself. And for a few days, it seemed like he'd gotten away with it. The news cycle churned, pundits argued, but it was all just noise, until Jasmine Crockett spoke. 3 days later, the Texas congresswoman, known for being sharp, quick-witted, and allergic to nonsense, was on MSNBC. They were supposed to talk about inflation. But right at the end, the host asked her off the cuff, "Congresswoman, any thoughts on the parade?" Jasmine Crockett leaned into the camera, a small, knowing smile on her face. And then she said the words that would ignite a firestorm. "That wasn't a military tribute," she said, her voice calm but razor sharp. "That was a birthday tantrum with tanks. We got veterans sleeping in tents. And this man wants us to clap while he plays emperor in a golf cart. It's not patriotism. It's performance." The studio went dead silent. The host just blinked. Before the hour was over, the clip was on Twitter. By nightfall, it was everywhere. Hashtag Tantrum Parade was trending. So was hashtag Golf Cart General. Millions of people, from teachers in Pennsylvania to veterans in Texas, shared it with comments like, "Finally, someone said it." For 24 hours, Trump was silent. For him, that's an eternity. Sources said he was fuming, watching the clip over and over. But in that silence, Jasmine Crockett's words echoed. They weren't just a political soundbite. They felt like something a real person would say at their kitchen table. Honest, unfiltered, angry. And then the silence broke. On the morning of June 18th, Trump unleashed a furious, all-caps rant on Truth Social. He called Crockett a disgrace, accused her of hating the troops, and attacked her intelligence. He thought he could bury her with insults. Instead, he gave her a bigger microphone. That afternoon, at a rally in Georgia, he went further. "You all seen that congresswoman from Texas?" he sneered. "Jasmine Crockpot? She gets on television and mocks our beautiful parade. Says I was in a golf cart like some emperor. Well, guess what, folks? I earned that cart." The crowd cheered, but something had shifted. He spent nearly 10 minutes attacking her, trying to turn her into a villain. He thought he was landing knockout blows. But he didn't realize Jasmine Crockett wasn't even in the ring with him. She was playing a different game entirely. A few days later, she appeared on a Sunday political show. The host asked her to respond to Trump's attacks. Jasmine looked completely unbothered. "You know what I noticed?" she said calmly. "He never once answered the substance of what I said. He just shouted, name-called, tried to humiliate me. But here's the thing. I don't scare easy." She leaned forward, and this is the moment everything changed. He called me angry. Maybe I am. Angry that we're spending millions on tanks while families are choosing between rent and groceries. Angry that veterans are ignored until it's photo op season. Angry that we've normalized nonsense. She paused, letting the words land. But guess what? I'd rather be righteously angry than proudly delusional. That clip went even more viral than the first. Because now, this wasn't just a witty takedown. This was a mission statement. And people were listening. Trump had meant to make her a joke. Instead, he made her a voice. But she was just getting started. The following Tuesday, Jasmine Crockett walked onto the floor of the House of Representatives. The chamber was buzzing. Everyone knew what had happened. They were all waiting. Would she back down? Would she apologize? She walked to the microphone. No notes, no theatrics. The room quieted. I wasn't planning to say anything more, she began, her voice steady and clear. But since I've been dragged through every media outlet in the country for having an opinion, I think it's only fair I speak plainly, right here where the record counts. You could feel the tension in the air. I stand by what I said. Every word. And not because it went viral, but because it was true. We spent $45 million on a parade that didn't bring comfort to a single veteran sleeping on a park bench. We applauded a gold-plated golf cart and called it patriotism. That's not love of country. That's theater. She looked straight ahead, making eye contact with her colleagues. If calling out a vanity project while our veterans go unfed makes me radical, then I'll wear that like a badge. Because I wasn't sent here to smile for cameras. I was sent here to serve people who don't have parades. People who are invisible until election season. She finished with a simple, powerful statement. This country wasn't built on parades. It was built on truth, service, and accountability. And I will not apologize for demanding all three. She stepped back from the mic and sat down. There was no thunderous applause, but a ripple of nods went through the chamber. Even a few conservative members looked impressed. In those 5 minutes, Jasmine Crockett did something incredible. She took a political hit job and turned it into a masterclass on integrity. But as her star rose, the attacks got darker. Her personal information was leaked online. Threats flooded her inbox. Doctored photos and conspiracy theories spread like wildfire. They tried to paint her as anti-police, anti-American. Anything to discredit her. It was a targeted character demolition. Her team was worried. Her family was moved for their safety. But Jasmine's response was ice cold. When an aide told her that her home address had been posted online, she just nodded and said, "All right, then we keep moving." A week later, at a small press conference in her home district, she held up a stack of printed threats. "These," she said, "they don't scare me. Because you can't scare someone who's already walked through fire." Then she held up another stack of letters. "These are from veterans. These are why I said what I said. And if you think a few angry trolls are going to shut me up, you've got the wrong woman." And that's when the most powerful voices of all decided to step into the light. It started with a single Facebook video. A retired Army vet named Leo Garrison, sitting on the tailgate of his truck in California. "I saw that parade," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "and it made me sick." That wasn't a tribute. That was a circus. And when Congresswoman Crockett said what she said, I felt seen. She didn't spit on a flag. She spoke up for the people who actually wore the uniform. That video exploded, and it opened the floodgates. Veterans from all over the country started posting their own stories. A retired Air Force single mom in a wheelchair posted, "I didn't cry when Jasmine spoke. I exhaled." A former Navy officer said, "She didn't lie. She just broke the silence." This was the turning point. This was no longer Trump versus Crockett. This was the political establishment versus the people they claimed to represent. Trump, in a desperate move, attacked the veterans who supported her, calling one disabled vet a professional victim. It backfired spectacularly. His cruelty only highlighted her composure. And through it all, Jasmine stayed focused. She didn't get into mudslinging matches. She introduced a new veterans' mental health bill. She held town halls. At one, an older woman named Darlene, a two-time Trump voter, stood up. "I don't have a question," she said. "I just want you to know I heard you. You said the thing I was thinking but didn't know how to say." And for the first time in a long time, I felt like someone in Congress actually saw folks like me. Jasmine stepped off the stage and stood beside her, just listening. The moment was captured on a student's phone, and it went viral for a different reason. Not for the anger, but for the connection, for the decency. In the end, Trump's parade was supposed to be a show of his strength, but it ended up revealing hers. Jasmine Crockett never asked to be a national voice. She wasn't trying to become a star. She just told the truth, plainly and without apology. She reminded a country drowning in noise what clarity sounds like. Her story isn't over. But what this moment showed us is that sometimes the loudest person in the room isn't the most powerful. Sometimes power is a quiet, steady voice that refuses to back down. The voice that calls out a lie, not for political points, but simply because it's the right thing to do. Because truth, when it's spoken clearly, sticks. And people will always remember the person who had the courage to say that the emperor and his parade had no clothes.